Ryan. What's your take on owls?
Owls?
Owls. What's your take on owls?
You son of a bitch. You son of a fucking bitch.
Did
I
trigger?
told you I would not do a podcast.
In a world where the last thing we needed was more podcasts, we present to you the pods we cast along the way.
So, we're gonna do a take 2 of last week. Get
More game fuel?
no more game fuel. No, this actually here. Let's listen for the. It's still so lame.
That was much more satisfying than the first one.
It was.
The first one was like a dud.
It was like
I would return that to the store.
it was just a.
I don't want to drink that.
You probably don't want to drink this because this week is Monster Energy Ultraviolet. Because we really want to take all of the health recommendations that they're putting out there right now seriously, and
Yes.
they say ultraviolet light is an even stronger form of light, and they said get the light inside your body. Hello and welcome to the pods we cast along the way. I'm Spencer,
And I'm Ryan.
and you are currently listening to our third episode in our ongoing podcast series, our roundtable forum discussion on all things pop culture, music, TV. News, sometimes news. Does anybody really want to listen to the news when they're trying to listen to an irreverent podcast about pop culture, though?
Absolutely not. I have not looked outside. I have not read anything. I have no idea what's going on. But later, I think I'm going to go to the library and just shake everybody's hands. Spencer, before we get into our podcast, I have an apology.
Oh,
and
an
a
apology.
confession.
Okay.
Yeah. As you know, in our last episode of the pods we cast along the way, we played our favorite recurring segment on the show, which is a game we call Quarter-tine, during which I asked you if you knew what was on the back of the nickel.
Mm-hmm.
And you did not know. And then I laughed at you, and I said it was the Capitol building. So the back of the nickel is actually a house that Jefferson built called Monticello.
Oh,
So
okay.
that is the back of the nickel.
This is shocking news.
I am an idiot. I am a rube. I did not know that I was providing false information, and I apologize, and I resign from the podcast.
I always wanted to do a solo show anyways, so it's probably for the best. I'm glad that we can put Nickelgate behind us, though, and we can start the healing process. But, it takes a big man to admit when he's a fucking idiot and he gets the back of the nickel wrong.
I'm sorry, I would respond to that, but I have resigned. So
what you're saying is...
the rest of this episode is just an hour of insults that I will not respond to.
The pods we cast along the way is officially past tense. This is the final episode. 3 episodes in. This is what ruined us, not a scandal of epic proportions. It's you getting what's on the back of the nickel wrong.
It's true. It's true. I don't think we've even aired that episode yet, so I'm really just waiting for the backlash before the backlash even happens.
I told you to not let your self-esteem write YouTube comments, Ryan.
My self-esteem has a YouTube channel. It is separate from me as a person, and I just comment on my own content.
It's kind of like having an alternative Reddit. God, so there's two programs that I use at work a lot, and one of them is Revit. It's a 3D modeling program. It's architecture based, but it's one letter away from Reddit. And I use both on a daily basis, and I'm constantly confusing the two.
Don't make Reddit accounts on your Revit projects, because They will not go well, and you will be called into your office many times.
Oh yeah. Well, I'd be someone else's office. Being called into my own office would be weird.
It would be. Well, that's when your self-esteem has their own account. They also have their own office, and they call you in, and they.
What if it was?
You think this will make people like you, but they won't.
What if it was just like way nicer than your own office? And like...
That would hurt your self-esteem. So they would be having the meeting and going, "Oh."
That's kind of the premise of a Jesse Eisenberg movie called The Double, I want to say, is what it's called. But it's basically it's a doppelganger thriller where it's sort of Orwellian. Like the setting is very vague. It's not really dystopian, but everything is very oppressive and utilitarian. And he works in a building, something or other. But basically, his alter ego, like slash doppelganger, shows up and just is better than him and has a better life than him. It's really good. And we can make that my recommendation of the week.
Oh, bringing that back.
Yeah.
Bringing it all back.
Bring it all back.
Did Jesse Eisenberg get the idea from that movie by watching Michael Cera's career take off?
Who has the more successful career at this point? Do you think? I would have to probably say it's Eisenberg, right? Because what has Michael Cera done recently?
Well, Jesse Eisenberg hasn't done a whole lot lately. I know he just released. There was a movie that just released that I think was like a psychological thriller that he does a lot of small movies.
Yeah, a lot of like artistic stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's just what he wants to do. I guess he would have. I think Michael Cera is the bigger name, but I think that Jesse Eisenberg might have both the more critically acclaimed career, and maybe he's been a little more successful.
Yeah, he does a lot of.
It's a tough call.
He does a lot of writing. He's published a handful of playlets.
Yeah, that's true. I've read some of his work. It's he's very good.
Yeah. That's an interesting distinction that you bring up, because I think Michael Cera, from a broad appeal, like he was in Superbad, he was in Arrested Development. I would say the most commercially prevalent thing Eisenberg did would be Justice League and Zombieland and
Social Network.
And Social Network, yeah, that's true.
He got an Oscar nomination for Social Network.
God, I totally forgot about Social Network. In this week's segment, things that I really should have watched at this point but never have seen. Social Network, check it out.
That's my recommendation of the week.
Yeah, okay.
If you want to see a really good movie that's 10 years old,
I mean,
Social Network.
Isn't that what we do on the podcast? We talk about stuff that's way, way out of relevance.
When are we going to get to all of our hyper-conservative opinions?
That's going to be like in episode 10. We really got to...
That's what we made this podcast about, is to just spew
Now you're just giving away the game, Ryan. We had to lull him into a false sense of security before we turn this into just a blatant alt-right podcast.
What's the Alex...
Alex Jones?
I almost said Alex Trebek. What if Alex Trebek had like a really offensive podcast that after every Jeopardy he goes like, "All right, everybody, good night," and then he goes home and he goes like, "What do seals know?" Hashtag kill the seals.
So did you hear what Alex Trebek said recently?
No.
Apparently. He called nerds losers on the show.
Nerds are losers. I agree with that.
I mean, it's true.
Speaking as one,
we really are.
That tracks.
Nobody's listening to this show anyways, so we might as well call ourselves out. We just want to take this moment to publicly recognize that nerds, you are losers, but it's okay.
You are a loser.
Because you just have to have the confidence. Getting back to a segment we talked about last week, it's all about confidence, right? You just have to pretend that you're not a total embarrassment. That's why we do this podcast. That's how we do this podcast.
It's just complete self-denial and a lot of gin. Oh, hang on a second.
Wait a minute. Wait. This is breaking news, Ryan. You have a visitor.
I have a visitor. Is it you? Hang on a second.
We're gonna go to our first music segment. This is This is Oingo Boingo with Dead Man's Party. We'll be right back. And we're back. That was Oingo Boingo with Dead Man's Party.
I'm so sorry. I totally derailed everything that we're doing.
I'm seriously debating on how much to keep of that because honestly, it's all great. Oh man. Well, now that we're back, do you want to jump into our first segment?
Yes.
Of the show?
So I had an idea because last time we were talking about a lot of pop culture that we really enjoyed, we really appreciated, and we got very excited about that. I think it's a very good idea because with everything going on, people are binge watching a lot of shows. One of the shows that we love to watch very much is The Simpsons, which you can watch on Disney Plus now.
Yeah, that's right.
And there might, because people have access to that, there might be a lot of people that haven't seen the show, haven't seen the show in a long time. And you're a very big Simpsons fan. I'm a very big Simpsons fan. So
yes.
I thought it'd be a great idea to make top 10 lists of our favorite episodes. So if people wanted to get into the show, they could have some recommendations from us of what might be like some great episodes to check out to see if it's kind of their bag.
Nice. Yeah, I'm actually in preparation. I'm wearing my Simpsons Treehouse of Horror.
I see that
shirt.
It's perfect.
Because which reminds me, you actually had some criteria for this list.
I did, yes. So in order to kind of differentiate the list and kind of make it pretty general, so it doesn't repeat itself, it has to be 10. We had to have at least one entry from after the 2000s, because a lot of people, when they make these lists, a lot of people, when they say their favorite Simpsons episode, usually they're episodes from the 90s. There has to be an episode about Homer. There has to be an episode about Marge. There has to be an episode about Bart. There has to be an episode about Lisa. There has to be an episode that centers on a character that isn't one of the main Simpsons characters.
So like one of the main Simpsons family.
Right. And if you have an anthology episode, because The Simpsons does a lot of anthology episodes like Treehouse of Horror and some other things they've like done through, you could only do one of those on your list. I will tell you now, Spencer, that I have no anthology episodes on my list.
Really? Well,
really?
You probably made that only one Treehouse of Horror rule because those are my favorites when I was growing up. Every Halloween, UPN. Do you just, God, who knows who's listening at this point, but if you remember UPN, leave a comment below.
I remember UPN. I used to watch Everybody Hates Chris. Everybody Hates Chris used to be on UPN.
Yeah, Sister was on UPN, but The Simpsons was during our dinner time on UPN. And so we would watch The Simpsons. And it's funny, my mom, she likes to share the story. She was like, because I started watching I don't know how old you were when you started watching The Simpsons, but I was pretty young, like probably younger than I should have been.
I think everybody was.
Yeah, but my mom was like, I was always so worried you were going to grow up to be like Bart Simpson.
Well, nobody grows up to be Bart Simpson.
No, everybody grows up to be Homer.
Yeah. That's the danger. When I was growing up, The Simpsons was on every day after school, and they would run 2 episodes, and those episodes would start immediately after the Maury Povich show, which was a very trashy, and I think it's still on. But
I think Maury's still on the air.
I think it is. Very trashy Jerry Springer knockoff. And so I would sit and wait for The Simpsons to start watching the show that I definitely should not have been watching.
So that was the thing you shouldn't have been watching, was the Maury show right before The Simpsons.
Yes, no, The Simpsons is very tame. I think I must have been about like 10.
I was definitely like in the single digits when I started watching that show.
Nice. Good.
And look at me now.
And look at you now.
Sorry, things turned out great.
Wearing your little shirt. Do we have any other rules? I think that was all of our rules.
The only other rule, because I actually I made a list and wrote them down. You also said we can't pick any of the shorts or the movie, and as a special bonus, we also had to pick one of our favorite Itchy and Scratchy episodes.
That's right.
Which, thank God for Wikipedia, because I mean everybody remembers the shorts that stand out to them, but I was actually able to go on Wikipedia and pull up a list that actually like itemizes every single Itchy and Scratchy episode. It's awesome.
Yeah, I don't think anybody. I kind of made that one for fun because I don't think anybody was like, "Oh man, like this is the one with this Itchy and Scratchy." Like,
well, when you got me thinking about it, it reminded me like I actually had opinions on them, so I actually picked one.
There you go.
Yeah. So,
all right.
do we want to start this off with like a super douchey intro that's like number 10?
Absolutely.
All right.
Could you? All right. Do your number 10, and then I'll do number 9, and then so on and so on.
So, hey everybody, this is Simpsons Top 10 on the pods we cast along the way.
It's my guitar.
Very nice. Number 10. So this is my number 10. This one falls into the category of post-2000s Simpsons, and it is Alone Again, Natra Diddley. A lot of people will recognize this episode as the one where they killed Maud Flanders. And the reason I picked this one is it actually still sticks with me to this day, because I think when I was a kid, that was the first episode of any TV show where they really shook up the status quo and killed a main character. Yeah.
Do you think that killing Maud Flanders was a good idea from the Simpsons cast? Because I'm guessing that you know a little bit of the backstory of why they did that.
It had something to do with the pay that her voice actress was receiving, right?
Yes, she had to fly on her own dime to go and do these recording sessions. So she went in and asked for a raise, and they took it as an opportunity to actually get rid of the character.
Wow. You know, it's interesting if The Simpsons is better off or worse off with it. I think Ned Flanders as a character was worse off for it. In some ways, and in some ways not. It's hard, right? Because going through this list, I just realized, you know, you kind of called me out when you were like, everybody thinks about episodes pre-2000s, and it's kind of true, because that is considered to be the golden age of Simpsons episodes, which isn't to say that the episodes post-2000s were bad, they were just different. And to me, the ones that I always go back to tend to end around season 9. I know I just kind of sound like a parrot of popular opinion, where they say like, oh, the episode with the principal and the pauper, where they reveal that Skinner wasn't Skinner the whole time, and they uprooted the character and totally changed the. I don't really care about that. Really, the episode where I started to notice a drop, because a few years ago I went through and watched every single episode in order, starting in season 1 up to. I can't remember the name of the episode, but it's the one where Homer becomes the trash collector.
Trash of the Titans.
Trash of the Titans. That is the first episode where I saw Homer start to be a different character. And because, you know, The Simpsons as a family is sort of the heart of the show, that's kind of when Homer started to, what is commonly referred to as jerk-ass Homer, is when he started to become jerk-ass Homer. Just like his stubbornness and his decision-making were just... When you watch all those episodes back to back, when he starts acting like that as a character, it's not a slow burn. It's just like, whoa, this is like a different way that they're writing him as a character. And it sort of started to peter out after that. But I know you have a handful of episodes that are favorites post-2000s, and I really do need to give it a chance and go through and watch it. I don't know if I want to watch all the 20 seasons after to get caught up with current times. Maybe I'll just, you know, go through the greatest hits. But Yeah, I do think that the one where they kill off Maud Flanders is a really good episode, and it is worth checking out because it's one of those good when they focus on Ned and they cast him in a humanizing light, and he's not just Bible man. He's a really interesting character.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's definitely one that stuck with me. And it raised it shook the show up a lot. And raised a lot of questions of who this character was. I think that's a good one. That's a good example of like a later season episode.
Yeah.
I also have a later season episode in my top 10. We were talking a little about it, and you predicted that you knew what episode I was going to pick.
I did.
Do you want to guess before I reveal what I picked?
You know what? We'll save that until the end, and if I'm right, we'll discuss, and if I'm wrong, we will also discuss. But I know which one I think you picked, so if you did pick it, I'll reveal whether or not my prediction was correct by the end. Do you want to make a prediction about anything that might be on my list? I mean, we know that there's a Treehouse of Horror on there somewhere.
I'm gonna write 3 episodes.
Okay.
That I think are on your list.
Okay, so I have my 3 predictions. You have your 3 predictions. So do you want to jump into your number 10?
Number 10. How's that?
That's perfect.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. My number 10 is Behind the Laughter.
Was
that it?
I was gonna save it, but I fucking knew it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
I know that's one of your personal favorites.
I really like that one. There were other, because we talked about like there are a lot of episodes, like every now and then there will be a really good one. Bart Hood is a really good one. Brooke Like Me, like when they do like themed episodes that kind of like change things up and like mix them up.
Yeah.
Those are a lot of fun. There's this really great, the name of it escapes me, but there's one that's a parody of Eternal Sunshine.
Ooh.
I think it might be Eternal Moonshine of the Simpson Mine. I think that's what it's called. But it's that one's really good, and that one has like this great payoff at the end.
Nice.
So every now and then they'll knock it out of the park. But Behind the Laughter was, I think, the best episode that would have been like a possible finale if they ever had a finale. Like in that era, it kind of answers a lot of questions that the canon of the show kind of needed to answer. And it's just really, really funny. The plot of the episode is that it's a parody of Behind the Music that kind of goes into the making of The Simpsons as if Homer has been creating the series this entire time and cast his family and his friends into this multi-million-dollar television show. And the rifts that are caused by this and the behind the scenes. I think there's even a scene where Lisa accuses Homer of feeding them growth hormone suppressors in order to keep them all the same age, which I think is great. My favorite moment from that entire thing is Marge moonlighting as a nightclub singer, and she sings "I Shot the Sheriff," and when she's done, she goes, "So the next time you see a sheriff, shoot him," and everyone gasped, and she goes, "A smile." And there's something about that when I was a kid and I saw that it made me laugh so hard. So I really like that episode. That's Behind the Laughter.
Yeah, that is a really good episode. Do you think in doing a themed episode like that, it's clearly because the show continued, it's non-canonical. Had they chosen to end the show like that, where they reveal that it was just a project by Homer Simpson, do you think that would have detracted some of the more sincere moments earlier on in the show if they revealed that it was all sort of a facade?
Well, my take on it is that that if you take that episode seriously, if you're the kind of person that goes like, well, it happened and it's this, then you could see it as every episode until that point did happen, but when they made this series, they remade these episodes.
Oh, okay.
Except for maybe the episodes you didn't like. They go into the Skinner episode. They go into they give it as an example of like a jumping the shark moment, like within the show.
Gotcha.
And I just love that they're able to kind of make fun of themselves for it. So yeah, that's my favorite.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good pick. Do you think that Do you think that the principal and the pauper, because it's very heavily derided by a lot of fans of the show, do you think that it is as shark jumpy as people make it out to be?
I don't think so. I think for the time maybe, but the way I always watch them, so I always watch them out of order. So I never followed like an arc of any of these characters. Like none of these characters have arcs. Like these side characters, like a lot of times, like these big things will happen to them, and then like next week they'll be the same.
Right. Well, and that's what made the episode where they killed off Maud so significant, is because, to your point, yeah, the status quo just goes back to. They even make a joke about it at one point where they're like, "Oh, it'll just be back to normal in a week." Like, it's just like. There is no changing status quo really for that show, because you can't have one like that given how ridiculous all of the scenarios they throw themselves into are. And they even reference it with several characters like Krusty and Mr. Burns, where they're just like, oh, they did this. Like, you don't remember Bart Simpson, or you don't remember Homer Simpson? Like, they did this, 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 this. And it's like, no, it doesn't ring a bell.
No, which is great.
Yeah. You need to have that sort of, return to zero at the end of every episode.
Yeah.
Which makes certain things like Lisa the vegetarian impactful as well.
That's true.
Ryan, I know this is one of your favorite bits of trivia. Do you want to share the conditions of that episode and why Lisa remained a vegetarian throughout the series?
Because they had Paul McCartney in the episode, Paul McCartney and Linda McCarthy, who is his late wife, and he specified that he would only do the show if Lisa remained a vegetarian. Throughout the rest of the series, and she did.
Yeah, which is great.
Every time they eat a meal together and someone's eating meat, she always has something different on her plate.
Which is weird, because I watched a lot of these episodes in syndication, so I did see a lot of post-vegetarian Lisa episodes. Going back and watching earlier seasons when she's eating, meat, it's just kind of weird to see, because you do think of Lisa. She's been an established vegetarian for so long now, so.
I almost put that episode on my list too. I really like that one too.
Yeah. I've noticed you do tend to favor a lot of the Lisa episodes, and I think it's because you talked about Schitt's Creek and Heart, and I know you're a particular fan of any sort of sitcom that not only has good comedy but also has a lot of heart, which is really what the earlier Simpsons get at. There is a lot of heart in those episodes. And as a result, I've noticed you tend to lean towards a lot of Lisa-centric episodes as some of your personal favorites, because those do have the most heart.
Yeah, I think a lot of episodes that focus on Lisa and Homer have a lot of that dynamic where one really loves and respects the other, and the other, Lisa, is trying to come to terms with maybe her dad isn't the person that she wants her to be, and this is a guy that would do anything to kind of do that. One of the episodes that I put in, I have it I made a little honorable mentions list. I
put a few honorable mentions in too.
One of my favorite episodes is an episode called Lost Star Lisa. It's Lisa decides she wants to go to a museum.
Oh, I love that episode. Yeah, that one almost made it onto my list too.
Yeah, and gets very lost, and Homer has to go find her. Finally does, puts her in the car, and she goes, I'm never going to do anything stupid again. And this sets him off, because his whole mentality is that if you live your whole life never doing anything stupid, then you're not going to live your life. Which I think is a great look into. There are a lot of Homers, we talked about Trash the Titans Homer and how he's kind of a jerk, and how the character is kind of dissolved as the show's gone on into something that's just kind of like a joke. But I really like that mentality for the character, that it's not somebody it's somebody that doesn't have a lot of grace, and somebody that is kind of stupid, but it's almost his decision to be stupid. It's just his decision to live his life to the fullest. Yeah. And to be impulsive. I really like that. So that didn't make my list, but I do have Lisa episodes out there.
And that episode just ends on a really sweet note too, when they do eventually make it into the museum.
Yeah. And the alarm goes off and they have to run.
Yeah, well, that's at the very end. All right.
Do you want to get into your number 9?
Number no. Oh wait, no. You have to give your douchey radio DJ number 9.
Number 9.
All right, my number 9. Speaking of Lisa episodes, is Lisa the Iconoclast.
Oh, I like you, Lisa the Iconoclast.
It's funny, going through and looking at your stipulations. The way I kind of populated my list was I met the criteria first and then arranged the list after. Keeping in mind certain episodes had to stay on the list because they were my favorite episodes that featured those characters. So Lisa the Iconoclast is probably my favorite Lisa episode.
Why do you like it?
It's a fun... I really like Simpsons episodes that have sort of a fun adventure-y tone to them, and ones that also tend to focus on the town as a whole, as a supporting cast. And I really like the whole setup of the mystery behind who Jebediah Springfield was. Not to mention, the video that they play at the beginning sets up one of the best Simpsons jokes in history, which is the whole bit about a noble spirit and Biggins the smallest man. And then Miss Hoover turns to Krabappel and is like, and Biggins, I've never heard that word before I moved to Springfield. And Krabappel goes, it's a perfectly cromulent word. It's just one of those dumb Simpsons jokes. And that word in Biggins has actually made it into the dictionary now as a result of that episode.
What about cromulent?
Cromulent, unfortunately, has not made the cut yet. But every year I submit to Webster's, and every year they send me a letter saying, please stop sending us letters.
My favorite thing about that episode is, and again, we were just talking about this, but there's a great Lisa and Homer story there too.
Yes, yeah, I was just going to get to that. Yeah,
yeah, we'll go for it.
No, you go ahead.
No, it's yours. It's yours.
No, you know. It's just a really great moment where, because, like you said, Homer goes through different phases, and I think one of the biggest things, and people talk about this when they compare Simpsons to Family Guy, is that in Family Guy, Peter Griffin is a complete jackass who hates his kids, hates his family, and is a complete selfish prick, but at least he's sort of been that way since the series started. Homer, especially in the earlier seasons, and I would say even today, is a character who loves and cares about his family, and he will make selfish decisions, but he will always try to make it up to his wife or his kids. And there's a great moment in Lisa the Iconoclast where she's basically, the whole plot of the episode is, she's trying to prove that Jebediah Springfield was not the man who he said he was, because he's the founder of Springfield and everybody loves and worships him. And she discovers sort of this cover-up scheme that covers up who he was. He was like a pirate. And a scoundrel.
Tried to kill the president.
Yeah, tried to kill the president. And so she tries to bring this to light, and of course the town doesn't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to believe her. And there's a really sweet moment where Homer's just like, I believe you. You're the smartest person I know. Why would you be wrong? And that's just a really great father-daughter Homer-Lisa moment. It's really touching.
He says something to the effect of, usually it takes like a long time for people to kind of get on your side, even though you're always right.
Yeah.
And I want to get in on this from the ground running.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, and it just goes to show like he is paying attention to his kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my number 9. How about your number 9? What's on your number 9?
My number 9 is an episode called Hurricane Nettie. It is my Ned Flanders episode, so my not Simpson-centric episode. It was between this and a couple other Ned Flanders episodes. Ned Flanders is a favorite among our household.
Hurricane Nettie definitely made it onto my honorable mentions list.
Yeah, Hurricane Nettie and the ending of Bart's Comet are my favorite Ned Flanders moments.
Yeah.
I love that they kind of explore... So the concept of the episode is that Ned Flanders, who does everything right, is morally just, a very morally centric character, neighbor of Simpsons. A hurricane comes down, and the only house that is destroyed in Springfield, the only house in their neighborhood that is demolished, is the Flanders house. So they have to move and take shelter, and the town comes together to try to rebuild their home. They hilariously mess everything up,
yes.
which leads to Ned Flanders having a gloriously out of character meltdown.
Yeah, he just snaps.
Where he snaps and berates every single person in the town. Finally ending at Homer, who, like, this is a rare episode for Homer where he actually kind of did everything right. Like, all of his morals were true. He was trying to help Ned out for unselfish reasons.
Screwed it up because Springfield is a very dumb town.
And after berating everyone, Ned goes to him and goes, "Homer, you're the worst person I've ever met." To which Homer says, "I got off easy," which I really like.
That episode's got a ton of fantastic, really quotable moments in it. One of my favorites is when they're showing them the house that they rebuilt for them, and they take Rod and Todd into their new room, and there's a poster of Krusty on the wall, and Rod is like, "I don't like this clown," and he starts to take the poster down, and Bart says, "You better not. That's a load-bearing poster."
Load-bearing poster.
And, having done carpentry and worked, alongside construction, Ryan, you as well. Like, I just, as an adult in my profession now, I can appreciate that so much more. That line is so goddamn funny to me.
There are a couple load-bearing posters in your life.
There are a couple load-bearing posters in my life for sure.
That's another classic. But there are a lot of great payoffs in that. I love that it ends with him saying, Ned making this breakthrough that he doesn't have to be, super cool all the time. That he's allowed to lose it every now and then. And if you really make me mad, I might run you over with my car. I love that too. So that's my number 9.
Yeah, that episode also has another one of my favorite Ned Flanders moments, and it's just, we're talking about touching moments. There's a really great scene in that show that's completely devoid of comedy, where they have to shelter at the church because Ned and Maude are, the traditional upstanding Christian moral values family. And I think one of the really great things about that episode is it dives into him questioning his faith as a result. Yeah. It's like, I do everything right. And there's a really great scene where he's just like broken, and he is at the altar in the church having a conversation with God about what he did wrong or why it happened to him. And I don't know, that's just that's a really great, rare moment of, just it's a really sobering moment, especially on a show like The Simpsons. It just goes to show how good the writers were in their prime.
Yeah, that was a favorite episode of Harry Shearer, who voices the character.
Yeah,
and also hated Principal and the Pauper. So he's a very opinionated man when it comes to doing Simpsons episodes.
Was Harry Shearer the one who was going to leave the show at one point because of the pay debacle?
Yes. Yeah. He was done, and Harry Shearer is, I think, a man in his 80s. He might want to enjoy a retirement a little more. But he, without him, that show loses a great talent. And that's somebody who knows his comedy too. He's had a long career.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't have to jump into this right now, but we can talk about this maybe in our post list discussion is, the future of The Simpsons and, all of these voice actors who are getting up there, But before we jump into that, it's time for our number 8.
Yours are so much better than mine. I feel like I'm phoning
what are you talking about?
In.
Well, I mean, you kind of are. This episode brought to you by Zoom. You're VTCing Ryan is the current corporate. Ryan is currently banging his head on his desk in frustration.
I want to go home.
With my shit, Ryan, you are home. You can't leave home.
I want to leave home.
I want to leave.
What's your number 8?
My number 8 is the Marge Simpson episode of our list. It is A Streetcar Named Marge.
Oh, that's a lovely surprise.
Yeah, I really, really love that episode. That was even one of my favorites as a kid. When it would come on, I'd get really excited. I'm like, oh, this is the musical episode with Marge. It's got one of my favorite Homer and Marge interactions. But before I share what one of my favorite interactions is, I'm going to share one of my least favorite Homer and Marge interactions. And that is from the episode Secrets to a Successful Marriage. I hate that episode.
Yeah, you don't like the ending of it.
I hate the ending of that episode. It is, to me, and maybe you can dissuade me, maybe you can change my opinion on it. We'll see. But the whole idea is that Homer basically sort of falls ass backwards into giving relationship advice. He like starts to teach a community college class on relationship advice, which devolves into him just sharing gossipy stories about his and Marge's relationship, and it breaks their relationship. Marge basically throws him out. She's furious with him. He has to sort of fend for himself, and he moves up to the treehouse in the backyard, and it's got a lot of funny like singular moments in it. But it really bothers me that the resolution at the end of the show, Marge is like, you know, give me one good reason, you know, why, you know, I think she says like, what do you do for me in this marriage? Like, what do you bring to the marriage? And Homer's answer is to the whole question of like, why does Marge need him? Is she doesn't. He needs her. He needs her to take care of him. And maybe I'm horribly misremembering this episode, so please correct me if I'm wrong. No,
you're not at all.
But it just...
He needs complete, and he offers complete and utter dependency. That's how he puts it.
Yeah, and that just really, really bothered me. I don't know, because Homer... It's weird. Homer is a character who is constantly changing throughout the series. Right, there are episodes where he is very competent, and I kind of love those moments where he does have those little moments of like genius or competence. And that episode, it just ends on such a depressing, cynical note. And you contrast that with an episode like I think it's the one where he gets the hair tonic, and this is a very early Simpsons episode.
Yeah.
Where he starts to grow his hair back, and it just ends with Marge singing like "You Are So Beautiful to Me" to him, because he feels like super down about not having a full head of hair, and he feels like defeated and ugly. But then, you know, there are episodes where he goes to bat for Marge, like Marge gets a job, where Marge starts a job at the power plant, and Burns, you know, tries to seduce her and come on to her because he, you know, develops a crush on her, and he fires Marge when he finds out that she's married, and Homer goes to him and is like, you know, they don't have any money for lawyers to defend themselves. Lionel Hutz basically just like freaks out and leaves as soon as he sees, like, he opens up a wall and there's just like 10 lawyers standing behind it. It's great. But Homer like is just like, no, I don't like care about the money. I'm not leaving until you apologize to my wife. And that's a great Homer moment for him standing up for Marge. It just kind of crushes me that their answer at the end of the episode was that he doesn't have any value, because I don't agree with that from what we've seen in past episodes. So that's sort of a dark mark on earlier Simpsons writing for me.
I'll answer that and also give a little fun fact about that episode. So that episode was written by Greg Daniels, who's going to show up in my list. Greg Daniels started The Simpsons. He co-created King of the Hill. He co-created Parks and Recreation. And the reason he got his big job was adapting The Office to American television. And the reason he got that job is because Ricky Gervais, who created it in Britain, is a huge, huge Simpsons fan. And his two favorite episodes of that entire show are Homer Badman and Secrets of a Successful Marriage. There's this huge... He made a blog post about that episode of Secrets of a Successful Marriage, and his interpretation of it was that the reason Marge decides to stay and the reason Marge is angry with him is because of this thing that Homer did where he betrayed their trust.
Right.
And Homer saying that is his defense of why he will never do it again, because he loves her so much, because he absolutely needs her. So you could take that interpretation as you want. You are entitled to your opinion. I don't know. I kind of go back and forth on it. But if you want it to infuriate you, that episode gave a very talented comedy writer a very high profile job.
Well,
one day.
And I don't want to, you know, twist it. I don't want to say that like I hate the writers, because to your point, I didn't even know that. You know, you're really great for knowing all that trivia because you're a writer yourself, and so you know a lot about writers for shows and things that you particularly love and enjoy, which is awesome. And I love that you can bring that perspective, and that actually does soften it a little bit for me. It still, to me, I think cheapens a little bit their relationship because, like I said, if you were just going on past examples of how Homer has behaved to Marge, yes, he is selfish, but I do think there is more redeeming there are more redeeming qualities in Homer than the show gives him credit for, at least in that episode.
I agree.
But I do like your take and perspective on it. That has sort of shifted my focus a little bit. I'll be maybe a little gentler on it in the future. There are way worse episodes to get angry about, that's for sure. And we're talking like way down the line.
Yeah.
But
remind me of your number 8 pick.
Streetcar Named Marge.
Ah, yes. And why is that one of your favorites?
So, talking about least favorite Homer and Marge moments, this has one of my favorite Homer and Marge elements. And talking about a moment of clarity between Homer and Marge is like there's sort of a meta gag the whole episode about because Marge gets cast as Blanche in a musical adaptation of A Streetcar Named Desire, which to me right off the bat is just hilarious. I think John Lovitz plays the director, so another great character, but. Homer, they draw the parallel how it's sort of a Blanche and Stanley relationship between Homer and Marge, and Homer's just this brutish oaf, and Marge has to sort of twist his arm and pull his teeth to get him to even show up to see her show, and he just drags his feet, and he doesn't care, and he basically says as much to her. But he watches the show, and at the end of the episode, Marge is up on stage, they're all doing their curtain call, and she sees Homer, like, is just kind of looking down, and he comes up to her at the end of the play. He says, "Oh, wow, you were great." And she's like, "Oh, save it. You couldn't even keep your selfish head up at the end of the show." And he's like, "No, I wasn't bored. I was sad." And he talks about how he recognized in the show that Blanche was this person. He's like, all she needed was someone to, believe in her and care about her. But, I often miss the point of things. And Marge is like, "No, that was the point." So it was sort of a roundabout way of her realizing that, Homer is capable of getting it. But yeah, Streetcar Named Marge. That is probably one of my favorite Marge episodes. It's interesting that you put all these criteria on the list because it really forced me to think about how so many of my favorite episodes do tend to focus on separate characters, and I think that really is a strength of the show, is that any given episode can focus on any given character, and it can be a classic. It just shows they really understand their characters, and I think that's great.
Did you feel like you had to struggle to think of a favorite Marge episode?
No, there were actually a handful of mine. Marge in Chains was another of my favorites because she just has this moment where she just totally snaps, has to go for a trip to the Quickie Mart, and that's got an episode with a lot of great bits in it.
My favorite line in that episode is when Lionel Hutz says, "The judge is mad at me because I accidentally ran over his dog with my car." And by accidentally, I mean repeatedly. And by dog, I mean son.
Lionel Hutz is one of my favorite side characters in the entire show.
He is great.
He's top 3 for me.
I thought, when I was looking over Marge episodes, because I was thinking over, I thought you were going to pick the Springfield Connection, where Marge is a police officer. I really like that episode.
That also is one of my that was on my list as one of my favorite Marge episodes. Did not make the cut between that one and Streetcar. Streetcar just has a special place in my heart. But yes, Springfield Connection did make it onto my list. So good prediction. You know me well.
I'll tell you my number 8, because my number 8 is also my Marge episode. It's kind of like a Marge and Homer episode. So
okay.
But it's The Way We Was, which is the episode showing how they met. Very early episode. My next 2 picks are really mushy episodes, so I'm really sorry.
No, that's fine.
But
The Simpsons can be a show that has, like you said, has a lot of heart.
Yeah,
it's got a lot of touching moments for a sitcom.
A big part of that was James L. Brooks. The Simpsons was created and developed for television by 3 people, which is Matt Groening, Sam Simon, and James L. Brooks. Yeah. Matt Groening brought in the concept, brought in the art, brought in these characters, and kind of brought in the feel of the show. Sam Simon, who recently passed away a couple of years ago, is kind of for those early episodes. I think season 1, maybe season 2, he's kind of responsible for bringing in that wit.
Yeah.
And James L. Brooks is often given the heart. James L. Brooks, who had like this long career of developing sitcoms for television in the 70s, 80s, and doing some movies. A lot of them were just filled with heart. And he often got very, very excited in pitch meetings for certain episodes when they had to do with what the arc of these characters were and where they were going to end up. I really like The Way We Was. I just think it's this great feel-good episode. It makes me feel good, and it makes me root for the main couple a little more.
Yeah.
And I don't have too much to say about it. I like that one, so I picked it.
That episode, and I think they actually play it in one of their clip show episodes, but the bit where, it's funny, there are a couple of, like, quote-unquote romantic moments that really stood out to me even as a kid, and one of them was when, because the whole thing is, like, Homer basically lies to Marge that he's a tutor, right? Or, no, she tutors him.
She tutors him because he needs to pass Spanish.
Yes, and he really only does it so he can get close to Marge because he likes Marge, and she finds out, and they have a fight, and she turns him down for prom, and he gets really dejected, and he starts walking home from the prom, like on the side of the road, and he's trying to hitchhike home, and she picks him up, and it's just a really sweet moment because when they're sitting in the car together, and he's just like. He starts crying. He's just like, "Why are you crying?" He's like, "I'm just really sad because I know, like, if I'm gonna hug you, I'm gonna kiss you, and if I kiss you, I'm not gonna let you go." And it's just like, it's such a sweet moment. You're right. It's another really well written episode where they really just give the characters some heart, and it's so. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say one of my favorite touches of the episode is the reveal when Homer goes, I don't actually have a Spanish test. I really like that he wasn't caught. I really like that he decided, he was like, I'm going to start this totally clean.
Yeah.
I lied to you.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something that were like, Marge like heard through this, or like a phone call came in and he put it on speakerphone and it was Barney going like, oh, how's it going? Like it was something would made him easier to root for.
Yeah. That's a really good point, and that's not something I had considered because it's been a while since I've watched some of those earlier season episodes. But yeah, giving the characters sort of a moral compass, giving them heart, gives it breathing room to do super ridiculous things later on. It's a lot easier to forgive Homer for doing stupid shit when you can go back to those episodes and be like, oh yeah, he still is like a good person and is capable of being a good person. And I think that's just a good rule of thumb to live life by as well. Life lessons taught to you by the Simpsons, who would have guessed? It's like, I tend to, recognize that there is no black and white. Everybody operates in the gray spectrum. We do bad things, we do good things, but at the end of the day, is your heart in the right place? You're allowed to be human. And for a show about a yellow sitcom family, it was a very human show, especially in those earlier years. So that's a good pick. That's a great one.
Yeah. What's your number 7?
My number 7 is Treehouse of Horror. Do you want to guess which one?
5.
Oh, so close. 5. It was between 5 and 4.
Ooh.
5, I think, is the objectively better Treehouse of Horror. 4 is my personal favorite.
Remind me what's in 4.
So, Treehouse of Horror episode 4 is the one that opens on the Night Gallery parody with Bart hosting.
Oh, yeah.
That one has...
I should have known.
Yeah, that one, you know me and Rod Serling. So that one has the Devil and Homer Simpson, Terror at 5.5 Feet, and Bart Simpson's Dracula. And there are so many great gags. I think it's one of the best balanced Treehouse of Horrors, because it kind of eases you in. It sort of follows in a weird way the Grand Guignol structure of things, like a hot and cold shower type setup, where you start with the Devil and Homer Simpson, which is sort of a comedy. It's silly. There's some scary elements to it, but overall it's more comedic in tone. Terror at 5.5 Feet is just straight horror, And it also parodies one of, I think it's actually the first Twilight Zone episode I ever saw as a kid.
I think it's a lot of people's first episode. And I think a lot of people may have been introduced because of The Simpsons.
Well, I will say this. Treehouse of Horror was my gateway to horror. I'm a big horror fan now. And I was scared of everything as a kid. Like, I was scared of the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland. I was scared of roller coasters. I was scared of, I was so scared of so many things as a kid. As I've gotten older and gotten more into the horror genre and particularly a big fan now, I think a lot of that had to do with watching so many Treehouse of Horror episodes as a kid, because it's a really easy way to ease you into that genre. And Terror at 5.5 feet is basically the entire plot of Terror at 20,000 feet, which centers around Bart being on a bus, and there's a gremlin on the side of the bus, and he tries to get everybody on the bus to believe that the gremlin is going to cause the bus to crash. It's great. And it ends on one of the most horrific Treehouse of Horror. Like, it's a genuinely upsetting moment, because the whole bit is like, he finally defeats the gremlin. He knocks it off the side of the bus. They haul him away to a nut house for the rest of his years, which in and of itself is really dark. But even in they're hauling him off in the ambulance. He's like, well, at least I can have some peace and quiet. And just before that, Ned Flanders picks up the gremlin off the side of the road. Yeah. And he's just like, oh, you poor thing. Oh, look at that. He's trying to claw my eyes out. How cute. And so you don't see, what happens after that. You think Ned just, takes in this creature. But as Bart is being taken away in the ambulance, the gremlin pops up in the window holding the severed head of Ned Flanders. It is fucking horrifying. But it's such a good, straight horror Treehouse of Horror segment. There's some funny bits, but god damn, that is a genuinely scary one still to this day.
That's why they warn you in the beginning, Spencer. They go, this is a little scary.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little scary.
Do you have a favorite Treehouse of Horror opening gag? Because I know mine.
Favorite Treehouse of... I like I think it might be 5, where they have they just have the sound going in, and which I think is very atmospheric when they do it, but then
that's
Homer interrupts.
Outer Limits. That's an Outer Limits parody. That's how every show would open. Yeah.
Yeah. I like the Outer Limits parody. But I don't know. I like I think that's why I don't have one on the list, is because I like those episodes, but none of them really stand out to me. They just kind of stand as a collection of the shorts stand out more to me. The Shinning stands out more to me as a favorite of mine. I like the Shinning a lot.
I'm waiting for Disney Plus to put together, because they actually are starting to compile collections of Simpsons episodes. Yeah. One of them is Simpsons Predicts. They're doing a whole list of Simpsons Predicts. And I'm waiting for them to put together one that's just all of the Simpsons Treehouse of Horrors, because I would just have it on in the background ad nauseum once they do that.
Just constantly going
come
through.
on, Disney, give it to me. I just want inject it directly into my veins. Just every episode of Treehouse of Horror in a row.
One day they'll get on it. Maybe in October.
Yeah, there you go. That would be a great Halloween time. Hey, Disney. Yep. You listening?
Hey,
they're probably listening.
Probably.
They
got their hand on a button somewhere.
What about your number 7?
My number 7 is Lisa Substitute. It's my Lisa episode. Lisa,
that one was also on my predictions list.
Yep.
So we're 2 for 2. We're 2 for 2 right now.
2 for 2, and I didn't predict yours. Because I called out 5 for you, but I have 2 more that I think you're going to do.
You're calling out things that were definitely on my list. It didn't make it to my top 10, but I definitely picked out. So I would say your predictions are still accurate.
Okay, cool. Well, Lisa Substitute, that's another very mushy episode. James L. Brooks championed this episode. He's the one that came. I don't know if he wrote it, but in the pitch meeting, he famously said, "This is how it ends," and he wrote down, "You are Lisa Simpson" on a piece of paper, and said, "This is your ending." I really like it. Very memorable guest spot from Dustin Hoffman, who was not given full credit, or didn't ask for credit, or asked to go by a pen name. A substitute teacher comes in and takes over Lisa's class for an extended period of time. Lisa really bonds with this person because they're intellectual that makes learning fun. and also bonds with Lisa over certain things that they like. So Lisa really kind of falls for this person that kind of acts as a father figure. It's the father figure that she's always wanted.
Yeah.
And at the end, when he leaves, she has this moment where Homer's being very unsympathetic toward the fact that he left. He is actually kind of relieved because, he was getting kind of annoying. Lisa fawning over him was getting very annoying.
Yeah.
She lashes out at him, which leads to the scene where he actually goes up to their bedroom and they have this talk where he basically says, like, I know you're going to do all of these great things. He's just going to watch her like grow into something that's above her and that's hard for him. And it ends with this very sweet moment where he finally gets her to like crack a smile. And
yeah,
I enjoy that a lot. It's an episode that's very easy to watch. This one and The Way We Was, these are like the only season 1, season 2 episodes. I think these are both from season 2, and these are the only really ones that I really go back to regularly and watch, just because I like that arc.
It's hard to go back and watch season 2 and season 1, not even because the animation is just so rough. It's just they're still finding their footing, but there are definitely there are definitely diamonds in there still.
Yeah,
in those earlier episodes.
It's all in the writing.
Yeah,
it's the writing is always strong.
It just is such a strength for the show too. Like, I don't think we're saying anything that's a super hot take. What can you say about The Simpsons that hasn't already been said? But one of the great things about The Simpsons, and I think one of the reasons it's stayed so successful for so long, especially in that first 10-season stretch, is you can watch the episodes as a kid and laugh because Homer's dumb and Bart is rambunctious, but you can go back as an adult and you can pull out all of those moments. It's funny as a kid, you're just like, oh, Lisa's so annoying because she's so bratty and obnoxious. But then you realize as an adult, it's like, man, it is really hard to be Lisa Simpson in Springfield, and you really sympathize for her. You realize that Homer, who was just, you think of him as a dummy and an idiot, is just like, he's still a guy who at times is trying to do his best. You think Marge is just a nagging wife, and then you realize, oh my God, she's trapped in this hell with this family, which is why, Lisa is sort of her saving grace out of the whole thing. And then you just feel terrible for Maggie because they always forget her.
It's a very dark show, The Simpsons.
Oh God, we'll do we even want to recommend the Dark Simpsons edits on YouTube?
No.
Okay.
Well, maybe it's worth a Google.
It's worth a Google. Yeah, we won't get super into it, but Dark Simpsons. If you want to just feel awful, they're basically re-edits of Simpsons moments to recontextualize the Simpsons, and it gets really dark.
It does. But before we move on, and we will move on, I just want to say one of my favorite Home lines of all time is from Lisa Substitute. It's in a very tense moment, and it's a very mean line, but it's when he says, "Just because I don't care doesn't mean that I don't understand," which I think is so cruel to say, and also when you think about it, very funny.
It's hilarious because it's so true. It's super cruel in context, yes, but it's just another one of those Homer moments where it's like it's like the bit where he just shows a form of higher thought. Like when he says, like, I'm not envious, I'm jealous, and he like goes on to define the difference between the two, and Lisa's like holding a dictionary. He's like, wow, he's right.
He's right. Here's my recommendation. I think we should each give our number. What are we on now? This is our number 6.
Yes.
I think we should each give our number 6, and then I think we should make this a 2-part episode.
Ooh, that's gonna be hard because I'm really liking our Simpsons talk. But you're right.
I'm really liking our Simpsons talk.
This segment is like 3 years long at this point because given the opportunity, Ryan and I will talk about the Simpsons for literally hours. It's like when we get into the logic of the Cars universe, which
is a whole other
that's
series.
A whole other 6-part series that we'll do. But that's a good idea. I was just thinking that it's like, do we want to take a break or do we want to continue on? But let's break this up into 2 parts. We'll do part 2 next time on the pods we cast along the way. But so that was your number 7, right? We're on number 6.
We're on number 6.
All right.
What's your Number 6.
Jesus Christ.
Well, I'm sorry. I just grew horns and a beak for some reason.
Chicken demon. Oh god. So my number 6 does not focus on any particular character. This doesn't meet any criteria. It's just one of my personal favorite episodes, and that is Homer the Smithers.
Homer the Smithers. Whoa. You're a Homer the Smithers
Homer
fan.
the Smithers. I am a Homer the Smithers fan. I am a Mr. Burns fan in general, especially as an adult, because he is so, as we're talking about the differences between watching the show as a kid versus watching the show as an adult. And, Mr. Burns is just sort of this cartoonish villain as a kid, but as an adult, he is such a well done villain. He's so absurd and so funny that it's one of my personal favorites, because it also has a lot of great Homer moments. But it's probably got one of my favorite punchlines at the end of the episode, because the whole premise is Smithers is worn out. Smithers is Burns' sort of personal assistant. He's just worn out. He needs a break. He kind of has a meltdown, and so Burns forcibly sends him on a vacation. And in an effort to make sure that he is not replaced when he gets back by someone more competent or potentially better than him, he picks Homer to substitute for him. And Homer just does a terrible job. He goes off and he's terrible at it, and Burns starts to berate him, very much like he would Smithers, but Smithers, who can, grin and bear it, Homer just can't deal with it, and so he just loses it and just punches Burns right in. He says he punched Burns in his 92-year-old face or something like that. And so as a result, Burns is scared of Homer, and he is forced to look after himself, and he becomes self-sufficient because for so many years he relied on Smithers to do everything for him. So when Smithers comes back, Smithers inadvertently does get replaced, but not by Homer, but by Burns himself. And so in an effort to get back into Burns's good graces, he teams up with Homer to sort of make Burns rely on them again. And to make a very long story short, Smithers and Homer duke it out and have a fight in Burns's office because Smithers just snaps on Homer. And as a casualty of the fight, Burns just gets thrown out of his window like 15 stories up. And he goes into traction, and as a result, has to rely on Smithers to take care of him again. And so he's like, I want you to take care of that Simpson fellow. And Smithers is like, oh, I'm already on it. And he sends him a thank you basket as a thank you. And they're asking Homer, they're just like, why did you get this? And he's like, for knocking Burns out of a 15-story window. And Lisa goes, did he die? And Homer just says, what am I, a doctor? And it just ends.
That is a good one.
It's such a great, just dismissive moment of Homer. I love that whole episode. It's not going to make a lot of people's top 10 lists, but again, it's a personal favorite of mine because it's got a lot of really good Homer moments.
Do you have a favorite Mr. Burns episode of all time?
Oh man, you know what? I'm going to save my favorite because it does come in a later episode on the list. We'll save it for part 2 because one of my favorite Burns moments is in the later half of this list. So
one of my favorite Burns moments is from an episode called The Mansion Family. It's where Mr. Burns has just won the honor of being Springfield's oldest man, because he is at least, if not over, 100 years old. And just,
it tends to fluctuate.
Yes, it fluctuates, but his award for oldest man makes him not feel like such a young man anymore. So he decides that he's going to get a physical, and they tell him.
Yes, I know which moment this is now.
They tell him that he has something called Three Stooges syndrome, which is where he just has every disease you could possibly get, but they're all combating each other in such a way that it's as if they're all trying to get through a very small doorway and just can't get through. To which he says, "Oh, that means I'm indestructible." And the doctor goes, "No, a simple breeze could and he just ignores them, thinking that he's indestructible. That is my favorite.
That is a good pick for a best Burns moment. Oh man! All right, so that was my number 6. What about your number 6?
My number 6 is an episode called Bart on the Road. It's where he, Milhouse, Martin, and Nelson. And I like that this kind of established this episode as kind of Bart's circle of friends.
Yeah.
And it's just like the weirdest little group. And they decide Bart is going to lie. I think it's been a while since I've seen this, and but I think he tells his parents that he's going to something equivalent to like a math camp.
It's like a grammar conference.
Yes.
In Canada, not even in the United States.
But what they're actually doing is they're taking a joyride across the country.
Right, because he makes a fake ID, which he uses to rent a car.
Yes. And decides to just get in all sorts of trouble, which they do, and they cause a ton of collateral damage. Meanwhile, at home, Lisa went to Homer's work as part of the Bring Your Kid to Work Day. And they discover, like, as he's working with him, that Homer enjoys his job a lot more with Lisa around. So through, I think, the summer or the spring break, he has Lisa around a lot more, and they start having a lot of fun together, and they start bonding, which leads to the end of the episode, which is Bart calling Lisa and saying, I need you to send me money in a way to get home. I need you to order something really big. So I can, because he's like he found a way to be part of this delivery service.
Right.
Just hoping that one day he's going to get sent to Springfield and he could get sent home for free. And Lisa decides to tell his dad if he can keep it a secret, which sends him totally off the rails. But the way they're able to communicate and the way that they're able to kind of solve this problem together, and I think the solution that Homer comes up with is actually very smart for Homer, because he decides to order a part. He decides to order a new control panel, which is going to be big enough to put all of Bart's friends in.
Right, for the nuclear plant.
So he calls up somebody from where Bart is and says like, "Oh yeah, I need a new control panel." "Oh, well, it looks like your control panel's fine." And he dumps like coffee or something like all over it, soda.
Yeah.
And they go, "Oh my god!" And they get him home. I like that episode because it's very funny, and it also has a nice Lisa and Homer moment, which I guess is my thing.
It's okay, Ryan. It just shows that you have a heart, because all I've picked are soulless, funny moments.
Soulless, funny moments. And all I've picked so far is I have a few on this list that they get a little funnier, but I guess the ones that stick out for me are the ones that are like, they're a little deeper than that. The ones that have that James L. Brooks touch to them, even though that's not a James L. Brooks episode, but it's very funny and it's very good.
You know what, Ryan? I think we're just discovering the dynamic of the podcast, where you're the one who brings all of the, the heart and the sincerity, and I'm just a nihilistic void. And so
you're the Sam Simon, and I'm the James L. Brooks.
There you go.
We have no Matt Groening, so we have no creative outlet, but we do have each other.
That's true.
That's the pods that we cast along the way.
I just got a little choked up right there. that episode also has two favorite things of mine. One of them, my favorite line in that episode, is when they're on the road and they're just like all in the car together. They have so many great like road trip trope gags, but Bart sort of assumes the ringleader role on the trip. And as they're all sitting in the car, driving down the road, Nelson punches Milhouse, I think, in the shoulder, and Milhouse just goes, "Bart, Nelson hit me!" And you think Bart's gonna like step up and be the dad, but instead he just goes, "He sure did."
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and I just love that is such a like, that is what would happen if you and your friends like went on a road trip. It's like there's no parent with you, so no one's gonna play the like the controlling like parent role is just like, yep, he sure did hit you.
I like the montage where they're driving through and they go like, Bart, can we stop for ice cream? Yes. It's just like it's just these really common. Can we pick up that hitchhiker?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then they're with the hitchhiker. Bart, can we stop for ice cream? Yes.
Yes. I love it.
Oh, that montage, by the way, kicks off with since we're sort of wrapping up our segment here. That was your number 6. You got anything else you want to say about Bart on the Road?
It has Bart in it.
There you go. That's great. It's a great choice. No, that is another really great episode. But wrapping up our part 1, which has quickly become a 2-parter of our favorite Simpsons episodes. Make sure you tune in next time for part 2 of our top 10, soon to be our top 5.
Join us as we list one episode and then immediately have a discussion about 10 other episodes.
Listen, I applaud you for keeping a leash on this because we would have just talked for 3 hours. This easily became a 90-minute episode just talking about 5 episodes of The Simpsons.
As soon as we got to like 2 spots in, I was like, we're not going to do this in one episode.
Oh, man.
But that's okay.
That is okay.
Before we go, why don't we open up our mailbag?
Well, actually, what I was going to say was, before we get into our final segment, why don't we take a quick music break from this marathon discussion of The Simpsons? In tribute to Bart on the Road, this is one of my personal favorite songs that they play in that episode. This is Gold Earring with Radar Love. And that was Gold Earring with Radar Love, one of my personal favorites. I can't believe we keep getting the rights to these things at dirt cheap prices.
You know what I love the most about the song?
What's that?
The radar.
Yeah. Oh, you. So, just as we're wrapping up our 3rd episode of the pods we cast along the way, I think our last segment here for the episode is going to be another Ryan Reacts, trademark patent pending.
This is where you send me horrible YouTube videos and I react to them.
Yes.
With delight or horror.
Or a combination of the two.
What does laughter and horror sound like?
Any episode of The Big Bang Theory?
Oh,
that's a bazinga.
This episode brought to you by The Big Bang Theory.
Hey, check it out.
A show that ended a year or 2 ago, and yet we're still angry about it.
Just like How I Met Your Mother. Everybody's still angry about it.
I'm still angry about How I Met
Your Mother. I know you're still angry about it.
Yeah, they were going to make a show called How I Met Your Father. That was the spin-off show. They're going to have a new cast. But the finale reaction was so negative, they canned it.
Oh, I thought you were just going to say because of COVID-19, they decided not to pursue it because of production problems.
No.
Which, in that case, I would have said, thank God for COVID-19.
Oh.
Hey, speaking of sitcoms, on this episode of Ryan Reacts, we've got a very special one. We're just going to call this one Funny Clip from Friends. So, Ryan, go ahead and make sure you got your volume turned on so the listeners can at least kind of listen in on you. And as always, we will post a link to this clip in the show notes in case you want to check it out yourself. But anytime you're ready, Ryan, take it away.
All right, this is very relevant to what we were talking about. It looks like the title of this is Friends, but instead of laughter, it is screams. Here we go.
It's impossible to find a good doctor. I mean, how do you know the good ones from the ones who are going to push their penis against your knee?
Jesus Christ.
I just saw his daughter last week. Said he was fine. Her, on the other hand, large Botox.
Oh no. It makes me dread every joke.
Just like the Big Bang Theory.
Maybe he was
Oh. Is that right? Big
Oh,
Bang Theory show was scheduled 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Who knows? Time doesn't matter anymore. That was an experience. You
Yeah.
sent me an experience, Spencer. I didn't know you were going to send me an experience. I thought you were going to send me a video. I thought this was a show where you sent me funny videos, and they were really cute, like little animals. I expected like little animals to like come out. And I'd be like, oh, like look at that, and I'll react to that. But this,
Ryan, come on, you know me better than that. You're talking to the guy who made it a point to send you for, I think it was like 5 consecutive days in a row at 3 a.m. I sent you a different Happy Birthday Ryan video of progressively creepier delivery.
I was legitimately terrified because I thought that there are these videos you could find on and I think anybody with like a name can like find their name.
Yeah, most common names, they have them.
Most common names, like they have videos of people sending personal birthday messages, and sometimes from like professional companies like clowns and things like that.
It'll just be like a nice little YouTube videogram, like, hey, happy birthday.
I always thought they were going to devolve into something horrifying.
Like it was just going to turn into a snuff film.
Every single time. And now I think that's a brilliant idea. I think people should do that.
Oh my God.
And just like start out, and it's like a series of just like happy birthday, but they progressively get creepier and creepier. And that's the real birthday.
Those were the real pods we cast along the way.
And that is our show. I want to thank my guest, Spencer Richardson.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be coming back next week, but I do always like making guest appearances on this show. So thanks for having me this week, Ryan.
Next week, we will have Penelope Cruz and John Wilkes Booth.
Nice.
Are both coming on the show.
We haven't heard from him in a while. How's he doing?
His acting career never took off.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing that. So next time you want to have me back, just give me a call. Probably won't ever be again though, considering, we don't have any flow or any chemistry or anything. So that was the pods we cast along the way. Thank you everyone for tuning in. This was episode 3. Ryan, what?
I'm giving you a call. You said me to give you a call, so I'm calling you. Is that okay if I call you on the show? I'm calling your cell phone right now.
Yeah, hang on. Let's answer here. I'm gonna put you on speaker. Hey Ryan, how's it going?
Don't you ever talk about owls on our podcast ever again. You know that I have a thing against.
Thank you everyone for listening to this week's show. Remember to smash that like button and follow us on iTunes and Spotify. This has been the pods we cast along the way.